Intelligence is the ability to avoid doing work, yet getting the work done. I'm wondering if the companies here using OpenWrt and LEAD are following that advice at all. You know, are they reusing? Are they avoiding doing hard work? Or are they reinventing the wheel? So that's a question that always accompanies my work. And one day that changed my life was 25th of October of 2014. I was at the Google Mentor Summit in California, and I had the privilege of meeting Linus Torvalds. You may not recognize me because I weighed 15 kilograms more, but I'm the guy behind the girl in the purple dress. And that day I had the privilege of hearing him talk with other Google executives about open source and why it's important for life and our economy. And I understood what is, in my opinion, is the #1 reason for which open source is important for companies. It's because, as many people have said today, both in public and in private, open source allows companies to share the low-level implementations of the low-level problems that usually the general public consider boring, but geeks love to work on. And by sharing this cost, they are also allowed to have more money that they can invest in other things or reinvest in the open source solution. So here I want to introduce you to OpenWISP 2. It's a modular configuration management platform for OpenWrt and LEAD that we just launched less than a year ago. It's the successor of OpenWISP 1. And you can reuse it instead of build your own. And I hope that some companies, especially the small ones, will consider this option, as many other companies are doing already. So, before starting, I want to thank you all for being here, for your involvement in open source networking, especially the OpenWrt and LEAD core developers for the huge work in open source, which is really a great job. Purple Foundation for hosting the summit, for organizing the summit, and CZ.NIC for hosting it. Thank you very much. I'm Federico Capoano, and I am OpenWISP core developer working with Cineca in Italy since 2012. Let's start. So, at its core, OpenWISP 2 is a configuration management application. And before I don't have a lot of time, I'm going to show you some videos on which I'm going to talk and explain you the image here. So, in this example, I'm preparing a configuration of a device, and you can see I am adding a radio interface. I selected the 5 GHz. Here you can see the pretty standard OpenWrt options. Let me move the mouse here. Okay, pretty much standard stuff. After I prepare the radio, I select also the country, which is important for legal requirements for the power. Then I create the wireless interface, and you can also create bridge interfaces, either interfaces. There are pretty much the standard options that you can find also in Lucy. And here I put a test SSID, and showing you more features that you can leave that stuff empty if you don't use it. Here I wanted to show the encryption that we also support the WPA2 Enterprise, which some people are using for EduROM, for example. But for the sake of the example, I will leave it simple. Here I'm showing the preview feature, which is pretty nice for people that hack OpenWrt, which is possible to see a preview of the generated configuration. Here I'm showing you the advanced mode, in which is it possible to add custom options that are not present in the UI. And this format is called NetJSON. Look it up, NetJSON Network Configuration. It's a new format that we are working on, trying to standardize slowly. Here I also show that it is possible to use to add custom options from the web interface instead of going into advanced mode if you're not fancy with code. And it's possible to enter the value from the web interface and see the preview. I used the shortcut, so you didn't see me clicking the button. There are also some shortcuts. And you can see the UCI result contains the custom. Here I'm showing you that we have a pretty extensive documentation for the advanced mode, because it can be pretty hard to type all this information if you don't know what you're doing. I tried to document it as best as I could, and it's linked from the system, so by clicking you can get into the documentation. And here I wanted to show you also that we have support, experimental support for more firmwares, Raspbian for Raspberry and AOS, although they are very experimental. But it's there, so if anybody is courageous enough, they can try it. And this was the configuration overview. I'm trying to go, as you might have noticed, fast because there's not a lot of time, so trying to speed it up. The next interesting feature, which is something I love and a lot of people that use OpenWISP love, is configuration templates. Configuration templates allow to avoid repeating the same configuration over and over for each device. So by having one single place in which you store the configuration for all the devices that use it, you are able to manage it and update it a lot easier. Let's see. In this example, I will show you a few existing templates. One existing template for a mesh configuration using 811S. The interface is pretty much the same. So it's like before, but it's a template. So this kind of object is shared by devices. I'm showing you the mesh ID, which is a concept of 811S. The radio configuration, which may or may not be there. And it's also possible to preview the template configuration. But the important part is the device page. This is the device page in which then you can choose the templates. You can choose more than templates and aggregate them together. And by choosing that, and you avoid to repeat all the configuration, and you get it in the preview, but also when downloading. Another very cool feature is this enable by default flag, which can be checked on the device. And if a device, if a template is enabled by default, that means that it will be automatically installed on all new devices, and also those devices that automatically register into the system. It is possible to have firmware images ready to auto-register into the system, so you don't have to do any manual work to add new devices into the system. And the default templates will be automatically installed on all these new devices. This allows small organizations, small teams, to manage hundreds of devices really easily. There's also another similar feature to have more profiles, let's say, is the template tags, but this is more advanced. But it's a very similar concept, just that allows you to have several different profiles of default templates. Okay, now I will show you the next feature, which is auto-registration, which I just mentioned, to automate the boring part of adding the devices into the system. This video is long, so I will just talk about it briefly. Here you can see a LUCI, custom LUCI interface. Okay. And I'm configuring a DHCP client, so it will automatically connect to the internet or to the LAN, and it will automatically register. So there's nothing special here. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the concept. There is a daemon on the router. It's called OpenWISP config. For example, the tourist guides enable the feed by default on their system. I just bought a couple of those routers to test it. And the daemon just tries to, if the auto-registration is configured, it just tries to connect to the controller. As you see there, there is a line in the log read. You may not be able to see it. It says, new device registered successfully as MAC address and ID. So with that, you are able then to find the device into the system. And let's try to go a little bit further to speed it up. Okay, here it is, there. Let's see. So here you can find it. You can see it's the name is the MAC address of the device, and then you can change its name, reconfigure it, change the templates, and the device will automatically update its configuration. This is it. There's no need to talk more about this feature because it's a very simple concept. So if I can find the mouse. Nice. Okay. So another interesting feature, the possibility to manage VPN and certificates is very important for organizations that manage a large number of devices that are scattered around different geographical locations to be able to SSH into them and to manage them, monitor them. So it's very important to have a VPN, management VPN. Sometimes these VPN can be also for traffic management. So OpenWISP allows to automate the creation of client certificates. So it can be done in a pretty secure manner, and the certificates can also be revoked to disconnect some devices if needed. This is a very quick overview to show you a few of the pages. We have certification authorities and certificates. Here I'm showing an existing certification authority in this test system. You can see the options cannot be changed because the certification authority has been created, but it is also possible to create new certification authorities and of course import them. But just by importing the public and private key, the certification authority will be there. We have configuration of VPN servers in which it is possible to define the configuration of the VPN. We only support OpenVPN for the moment, but it's possible to have more configuration backend for this too. We support different modes. I won't go over the details of the configuration of OpenVPN, but another important concept is the VPN client template. Here you can see I'm choosing VPN client as a type, and it has a relation to the VPN servers, so you can choose which VPN server the VPN client is related to. And another important aspect is the auto certificate flag, which if enabled, it will automatically create certificates for all the devices which have this template. And this basically allows to automatically create configuration and client certificates for new devices without doing any manual work, which is pretty important for small organizations that have limited budgets. Let's go ahead. This is a new module that is not released yet, but we plan to release it very soon. And here I'm showing you a preview. And it's just an outdoor and indoor map. The video didn't go perfectly right. Bear with me. Here I'm choosing an existing location in which I'm choosing the place where I work. It appears on a map, and then you can choose to add a new floor plan or use an existing floor plan. And you can select the indoor location, which, by the way, that's my desk where I work. And that's it. So we hope to release this feature by the end of November, which is. And now, next feature is the network topology module, which allows to collect and visualize information about network topology, which is especially useful in mesh networks, but can also be used to collect data from OpenVPN status file, or anything that has some topology information that can be converted to the format, or can be added support to that format. This module was added during the Google Summer of Code this year by an Indian student, a very good student, Rohit. Thank you very much, Rohit, if you're following from the live stream, for working on this. I'm sure he is. So I'm going to show it very quickly. Here we go into, I'm showing topology object. It's not relevant right now to talk about the options, the configuration options. What is important is to see that it is possible to inspect the topology, to move it around and inspect the links. You can see there is a red link which is offline. It's possible to inspect the content of the nodes or go back in time to see a previous snapshot of the network topology. This is especially useful if you have a wireless network that changes very often. Okay. So, that's it. I'm going to finish my talk with some final considerations. OpenWISP 2 is growing. It has been publicly released, like officially on the website, on December last year. So in about 1 year, we are going to grow to 1,000 users, which for a small project, we are pretty satisfied with this growth. I hope it will continue over time and grow even more. This year we participated to the Google Summer of Code, and we completed successfully 5 projects. We hope to do this again next year. And the Google Code-in, that's why I asked before the question, how do you think you're going to attract new people in the community? We hope to be accepted by Google for this program, which is aimed at teenagers, and we will be able to make these teenagers work on many small tasks, and which we hope to bring them into the OpenWrt community to get them familiar with OpenWISP and OpenWrt. We are also looking for partners, so if you have a use case in which you're building something like OpenWISP and you're considering joining forces, please come and talk to me. And I'm leaving here my contacts. There's no time for questions, but tomorrow at 4 o'clock I have a workshop in which you can come and we can talk for 1 hour and you can ask me all the questions you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federico. You got us back on time. We actually have a 10-minute break before we have our last 2 talks before the coffee break. So this is a short break. With that later. Oh, it's this one. This is a short break for 10 minutes. Go off and relax and stretch and drink some